The spotlight hit their table. Winning bid, $15,000 for the Aspen package to Leo and Chloe Vance. My daughter-in-law, Chloe, practically floated up to the stage and handed the auction assistant my company's black card with a smug smile. The assistant ran it. Her polite smile faltered. "Ma'am, it's been declined." Chloe's face tightened. "That's impossible. Run it again." The assistant tried again, then again, shaking her head. "I'm sorry, declined." A hush fell over the entire gala. 200 people watched as the color drained from my son's face. That moment of public humiliation wasn't the start of the story. It was the end. To understand how we got there, you have to see what I saw just 2 days before. 2 days before that gala, we were celebrating. It was the 25th anniversary of Whitlock Artisan Breads. My bakery, not some chain, not some soulless franchise, but my bakery. The air in the old converted firehouse was thick with the smell of warm yeast, rosemary, and roasted garlic. It's the smell of my life's work. We'd closed to the public, strung up white lights against the old brick walls, and invited our best customers and suppliers. In a place of honor, right by the bar, was Esther. That's what I call her. My original sourdough starter. A bubbling, living thing I'd babied for almost 3 decades, fed with rye flour and spring water. Every single loaf we sold, from the simplest country white to our famous cranberry walnut, was born from her. She was the mother of it all. My son Leo was working the room. He's all charm, my son. Quick smile, firm handshake. His wife Chloe was. Well, she was also working the room, but her room was the one inside her phone. She's a lifestyle influencer, which as far as I can tell, means she takes pictures of expensive things I pay for. She was wearing a new silk dress that I knew, for a fact, cost more than my first delivery van. My foreman, Miguel, who's been with me since the beginning, clinked a glass and motioned for me to say a few words. I wiped my hands on my apron, I never feel right without it, and stood up. "Thank you all for coming," I started, my voice a little thick. 25 years. I look at this place, and I still see the for lease sign on a broken window. I still remember sleeping on flour sacks in the back because I was too broke for an apartment and a business loan. The crowd chuckled warmly. I remember my first commercial order. 100 loaves for a local diner, and my main mixer broke. I needed 80 of them by hand. My arms felt like they were going to fall off, but we made the delivery. I was about to thank my team, the people who really built this with me, when I saw them. Leo and Chloe. They were in the corner with some young woman holding a phone, recording them for her story. Chloe leaned in, her voice a stage whisper I could just see, if not quite hear. She gestured toward me, her hand fluttering dismissively. "She's so sentimental," she said, rolling her eyes. "It's sweet, I guess, but Leo and I are the real creative force now. The new branding, the new accounts, that was all us." The blogger nodded, eating it up. Then my son, my Leo, smirked and added, "Someone has to sign the checks and handle the flour, right?" And they laughed. The glass in my hand didn't shake. I didn't stop smiling, but something inside me, something that had been cracked for a very long time, just broke. It was a clean, cold snap. For years, I'd been looking at my son and making excuses. Now I was just looking at a partner in a hostile takeover. The flour. The thing I'd built with my own 2 hands, the thing that paid for his private college, his clothes, his life, was now just a punchline. That's the thing about a final straw. It's never just one straw. It's the mountain of straw you've been carrying for years. I finished my speech. I smiled. I accepted congratulations. But all I could think about was the ledger. Not the company ledger, the one in my heart. I thought about Leo at 19, calling me from a holding cell. A DUI. "Mom, you have to bail me out. It'll ruin my fraternity chances. It'll ruin my life." So I did. I pulled money from our payroll account. I paid the lawyer. I smoothed it over. "He's just a kid," I told myself. "Boys will be boys." I thought about when he met Chloe. Suddenly, his perfectly fine apartment wasn't good enough. "Mom, we need a better place. For entertaining. It's about image." So I co-signed the lease on a luxury condo downtown, a place with a rooftop pool and a concierge, a place I couldn't afford until I was 60. Then, they decided to join the family business. That's how they put it. It sounded wonderful. until they presented their vision. It involved a new logo, black and silver packaging that looked like it belonged on a perfume bottle, and a new company car. "Mom, that old Subaru wagon you drive, it's just not on brand," Chloe had explained, sipping a $7 latte. "We need something that says success." 2 days later, a lease application for a new Lexus SUV landed on my desk. "For business development," Leo said. I signed it. They set up their own consulting firm. "It's cleaner for the taxes, Mom," Leo said. "We'll just bill the bakery for our marketing and branding services." And the bills came. Oh God, the bills. $4,000 for a team-building weekend at a Napa spa. Just the two of them. $7,000 for client gifts from a designer boutique. I never saw the gifts. I never met the clients. And the marketing itself? Chloe's Instagram posts. Pictures of her and Leo on a beach in Miami. Researching coastal-inspired brand synergy. Number Whitlock breads, number work life. A picture of them at a Michelin star restaurant. Tasting the competition. Number always grinding. They were living a 6-figure vacation, and I was the one paying for it. I'd been telling myself it was an investment, that this was the new way of doing business. But standing there, listening to them laugh about the flour, I saw the truth. I looked over at Esther, my sourdough starter, bubbling away in her glass home. She was pure, honest. You feed her, you care for her, and she gives back tenfold. She builds something real. And I'd been letting 2 parasites poison the whole bakery. I'd been feeding them, and they'd been giving back nothing but contempt. I raised my glass, my smile perfectly in place. "To the next 25 years, I said. But in my head, I knew. Things weren't going to last 25 more days. That snap I felt? It was a decision. The laughing, the whispers, the phone. It wasn't an insult. It was evidence. And I'd been gathering evidence for a very, very long time. That night, I didn't go to bed. I went to my office. The sounds of the party, the laughter, the music were just a muffled hum on the other side of the door. Here, it was silent. Just the click of the lock and the soft swoosh of the heavy oak door settling into its frame. My office isn't in the house. It's a small, glass-walled room built above the main bakery floor, overlooking the cooled loaves and the massive, silent mixers. It's my fortress. I didn't turn on the main light, just the green-shaded banker's lamp on my desk. I sat in my old leather chair, the one with cracks in the arms from 25 years of me worrying in it. For a moment, I just stared at the desk. Then, I took a small key from the chain around my neck, the one I wear with my father's wedding ring, and I unlocked the bottom right-hand drawer. It didn't creak. I open it all the time. Inside there was no dust, just a thick, spiral-bound notebook. It wasn't my first ledger, the one from 1999, filled with hopeful entries for flour and yeast. This one was black. On the cover I'd written one word, consulting. I opened it. I'm not an accountant, but I'm a baker. I know ingredients. I know waste. And for the last 6 months, I'd been documenting the waste. Page after page. It wasn't just numbers. It was a scrapbook of my son's betrayal. On the left side of the page, a printout of an invoice from their consulting firm. $7,000, Q3 client gifts. Taped to the right side, a screenshot from Chloe's Instagram posted the same day. Her, in a glittering designer gown, posing at some rooftop bar. The caption, "Just because. Leo knows how to spoil his queen. Number OOTD, number blessed." Another page, an expense report for $4,000, team building seminar, Napa Valley. Stapled to it, a printout from Chloe's blog. Our top 5 most romantic spa getaways. The photos were of her and Leo in bathrobes, clinking champagne glasses by a private pool. On, and on, and on. The Lexus lease, listed as a delivery vehicle, which had never once been to a loading dock. The business development trips to Miami and Austin that just happened to coincide with music festivals. The thousands in market research that were just bar tabs and dinners at restaurants I'd never even heard of. I'd been watching. I'd been playing the part of the sentimental old woman, the one who handles the flour, while I printed and highlighted and taped. But the notebook wasn't the worst of it. Tucked in the back was a manila folder, unmarked. Inside was the report from the forensic accountant I'd hired 2 months ago. "I'm a good baker, but I'm a better CEO. I knew I was missing something." He found it. The consulting firm wasn't just overbilling me, it was a ghost. A shell company set up to siphon profits. My son, my Leo, had structured the payments so that for every new account I landed, 30% of the net profit was diverted to his company as a finder's fee. I stared at that number. 30%. He wasn't just taking my money, he was gutting my business. He was stealing from Miguel. He was stealing from the drivers, the packers, the other bakers who got profit-sharing checks every Christmas. He was slowly, systematically bleeding my life's work dry. And 2 days from now, they were planning to stand up at the Children's Hospital Gala, the biggest charity event of the year, and accept an award on the bakery's behalf for community engagement. I closed the black notebook. The flower comment. The laughter. It wasn't disrespect. It was victory. They were laughing at the stupid old woman who was funding her own destruction. I didn't cry. I felt a cold, sharp clarity I hadn't felt in years. It was the same feeling I had 25 years ago when the mixer broke and I had 80 loaves to knead by hand. It was the feeling of knowing exactly what had to be done. I didn't sleep. I made phone calls. I spoke to my bank. I spoke to my lawyer. I reread the fine print on the company's articles of incorporation, the ones that listed me as the sole proprietor. When the sun finally came up, casting a pale, flour-dusted light over the bakery floor, I felt light. The weight was gone. I went downstairs, tied on my apron, and started scaling the dough for the morning bake. They breezed in around 10 a.m., smelling like expensive coffee and perfume. Chloe, in sunglasses, was already complaining about the light. "Mom," Leo said, checking his reflection in the glass of the pastry case, "just reminding you, the gala is tomorrow night. You did get the table right." "Chloe has to be seen there," Chloe added, not looking up from her phone. "It's the biggest networking event of the season. I've already tagged the event sponsors." I slid a tray of croissants into the proofing oven before turning to them. I smiled, the same warm, maternal smile I'd always given them. "Of course, Leo. The table is paid for. It's all under Whitlock Breads." "Perfect," he said. "Oh," I added, wiping my hands on my apron. "You'll be bidding at the auction, right? For the hospital." "Obviously," Chloe said. "We have to. It's all about showing our support." "Good." I reached into the pocket of my apron, past my dough scraper, and pulled out the company's black Amex, the one with the highest limit. I held it out to Leo. "Use this. Make a statement. Show them how supportive we are." He took it without hesitation, a flash of something in his eyes. Greed? Relief? He didn't even say thank you. "Great, Mom. You're the best," he said, already steering Chloe out the door. "Have a wonderful time," I called after them. I watched them get into their Lexus, my Lexus, and drive away. I turned back to my dough. The trap was set. The bait was taken. All I had to do now was wait for them to walk right into it. All I had to do now was wait. Waiting is something a baker understands. You wait for the dough to rise. You wait for the yeast to bloom. You wait for the crust to turn that perfect, deep mahogany. I'm a patient woman. I've built a life on patience. I went back to my workbench, the solid maple scarred and smooth from decades of work. I dipped my hands into the soft, cool flour, and the familiar comfort of it settled me. I thought about that black card, nestled in Leo's wallet. He thought it was a key, a pass to a life of endless luxury, all paid for by the flour. He had no idea it was a lock. When did I stop being his mother and become his line of credit? It's a slow, creeping thing. It's not a single moment. It's 1,000 small surrenders. It's the death of 1,000 no's that you never said. I looked at my own hands, calloused and strong, and I remembered Leo at 19, his voice cracking on the phone at 3 a.m. "Mom, I'm in trouble. I got a DUI. Mom, you have to come. It'll ruin my fraternity chances. It'll ruin my whole life." I didn't think. I just reacted. I drove 2 hours, sat in a linoleum and bleach-smelling police station, and wrote a check that emptied our payroll account for the week. I had to go, hat in hand, to my own foreman, Miguel, and ask him to hold his check for 3 days. The shame of that burned hotter than my ovens. But I told myself, he's just a kid. He made a stupid mistake. He'll learn. But he didn't learn. He just learned that I would fix it. Then came college. It wasn't just the tuition, which I paid by taking a second mortgage on my house. It was the lifestyle. It was the spring break trips to Cabo. Mom, I can't be the only guy in my house who doesn't go. It's about networking. It was the new laptop, the new bike, the bar tabs. And then, 5 years ago, he met Chloe. It was like pouring gasoline on a bonfire. Suddenly, my son's vague entitlement had a director, a strategist. Her needs were endless, and they were non-negotiable. Their first apartment wasn't good enough. Mom, we need a place to entertain, Leo explained, though he'd never so much as hosted a Thanksgiving. It's about image. Chloe has connections. So I found myself in a sterile white leasing office, co-signing for a high-rise condo with a rooftop pool and a dog walking service. A place that cost more per month than my mortgage. I remember the pit in my stomach as I signed my name. The leasing agent looked at me, then at them, and I knew what she saw. A fool. A mark. But he was my son. My only son, and I kept telling myself, he just needs a good start. Once he's on his feet, he'll see, he'll be grateful. Gratitude never came. Expectation did. The final insult, the one that broke me even before the party, was the car. I've driven the same Subaru wagon for 10 years. It smells like bread and coffee. It runs. It's paid for. But that wasn't on brand for Chloe. Martha, we can't be seen pulling up to client meetings in that thing, she'd said, wrinkling her nose. Leo just nodded. She's right, Mom. We need something that says success. So, I leased them the Lexus SUV. For business development, the paperwork said. I saw it parked at the mall, at the spa, outside restaurants I'd never be able to afford. I never once saw it parked in front of a potential client's office. I looked at the clock on the bakery wall. 10:30 a.m. Tomorrow. The gala would be tomorrow. For a moment, I saw a flash of a different life. A younger me, sleeping on 50-pound flour sacks in the back of my first tiny shop, too tired to drive home, and too broke for an apartment. I had built an entire world from nothing but those sacks, my 2 hands, and that bubbling jar of starter, Esther. They weren't just spending my money, they were spending that woman's sacrifice. They were burning her sleepless nights to fuel their spa days. They were taking her hard-won security and turning it into designer clothes and temporary, flashy status. I turned back to my dough. I punched it down, feeling the air whoosh out of it. Sometimes, to save the bread, you have to be rough. You have to knead it, fold it, and force it to become what it's supposed to be. I had been gentle for 35 years. It was time to be strong. And strong meant holding my breath for the next 24 hours. The day of the gala arrived. I didn't go. I've never cared for those events, rooms full of people bidding on things they don't need, all to get their name in a program. But I knew Chloe and Leo would be there, front and center. It was the centerpiece of their entire social calendar, the stage for their performance of success. I stayed at the bakery late, shaping loaves for the next day's bake. My phone was on the workbench next to my dough scraper. Around 8:30 p.m., the text started. Pictures from Chloe, her and Leo, clinking champagne glasses. A selfie with a city councilman, the caption, "Doing good, number Whitlock breads, number charity." I just looked at the photos, dusted the flour off my phone, and kept working. At 9:15 p.m., my phone buzzed again. This time it was a notification from my bank, a charge attempt from the company Amex. Amount, $15,000. Status, declined. A few seconds later, another buzz. Charge attempt, $15,000. Status, declined. I smiled, a tight, grim smile. I could see it all so clearly. The grand ballroom of the Hilton, the lights, the murmur of the crowd, the auctioneer, bright and loud, and the winning bid, $15,000 for the Aspen ski package to Leo and Chloe Vance. I pictured the spotlight hitting their table. Chloe, in her new designer dress, the one charged to client gifts, practically floating to the stage. She would hand the auction assistant that black Amex, the one I'd given her, with a smile that said, "Look at me. I am important." And I was there, in my quiet, flour-dusted bakery, when the first crack appeared in their perfect, fragile world. The assistant runs the card. Her polite smile falters. "Ma'am, it's been declined." I could feel Chloe's blood run cold from 5 miles away. "That's impossible," she'd hiss, her smile tightening into a mask. "Run it again." Declined. Leo, seeing her panic, would jump up, pulling his company card from his wallet. "Here, try this one." Declined. Now the room is silent. The auctioneer is shuffling his papers, trying to fill the dead air. 200 of the city's most influential people are watching. Chloe, in a panic, would dig through her purse for another card. Any card. She'd shove it at the assistant. Declined. "Well," the auctioneer would finally say, forcing a laugh, "it seems the Vances are having some technical difficulties. We'll move to our runner-up bidder." The spotlight would click off. It would be worse than if they'd been yelled at. It would be a cold, silent social execution, leaving them in the dark as the party moved on without them. My phone rang. Leo. His name flashed on the screen, angry and bright. I looked at it. I watched it ring. Once, twice, 3 times. Then, I pressed silence. I dipped my hands back into the dough. The show was over. The consequences were just beginning. My phone, which I'd finally silenced, was vibrating on the steel workbench. It skittered, buzzing like a trapped wasp, next to a 50-pound bag of organic rye. Leo, Chloe, Leo again. I let it buzz. I pushed a rack of cooling sourdough into the pantry. The smell of the caramelized crust, nutty and warm, filled my lungs. This was real. The steel, the flour, the heat. What they were in, that was a fantasy. A stage. And I had just pulled the plug on the lights. I didn't need to be there to see it. I'd been replaying this moment in my head for 48 hours. I saw the grand ballroom at the Hilton, all crystal chandeliers and tables groaning with ice sculptures, 200 of the city's finest, all dressed in black tie, all pretending not to be sizing each other up. And the auctioneer, a man with a fake tan and a booming voice, and the winning bid, $15,000 for the Aspen ski package, to Leo and Chloe Vance. A wonderful donation for the kids. A wave of polite, self-congratulatory applause. This was her moment. The one she'd been building toward, the one I'd been paying for. I could see Chloe, gliding up to the stage, that silk dress I paid for shimmering under the lights. She wasn't just accepting a bid, she was accepting an award. She'd hand over that black Amex, the one I'd given her, with a smile that was both humble and smug. "Look at us. We are so successful, so generous." I could see the auction assistant, a young woman probably working for minimum wage, take the card. She'd swipe it. Her polite smile would freeze. She'd swipe it again. A little faster. She'd look at the small screen. Declined. "Ma'am," she'd whisper, leaning in, "I'm so sorry. It's been declined." I know Chloe. I know that look. The one I'd seen when a barista got her oat milk latte wrong. Pure, unadulterated disbelief. "That's impossible," she'd hiss, her smile tightening into a mask. "The machine is broken. Run it again." The assistant would run it again. She'd shake her head. The microphone is still live, just inches away, picking up the swish-swish of the card, and her panicked whisper. The room would be getting quiet. The murmuring would stop. People would be starting to look. Leo, seeing the disaster, would jump up. My son, always trying to fix a problem he created. He'd hustle to the stage, pulling his company card from his wallet. "Here, try this one. Must be a chip error." He'd laugh, a tight, nervous sound. The assistant would swipe it. Her eyes would go wide. Declined. Now it's not a glitch. It's a pattern. The room would be dead silent. You could hear a cocktail olive drop. Chloe, her face now a mask of pure reptilian panic, would be digging through her purse, her hands shaking. I have another one. Try this. It's the..." She'd shove another company card at the assistant. One I didn't even know they had. The assistant, now looking mortified for them, would swipe it. Declined. 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 The word would echo in the silence. This is worse than being poor. This is being fake. This is pretending to be rich and being exposed in front of the very people you're trying to impress. The auctioneer, seeing the train wreck, would finally step in, his voice booming with false cheer. Well, it seems the Vances are having some technical difficulties with their bank tonight. How about a round of applause for their incredible generosity anyway? A smattering of confused, pitying applause. We will move to our runner-up bidder. The Millers, congratulations. And the worst part. The final, perfect cut. The spotlight, which had been bathing them in a warm, adoring glow, would just click off, plunging their table back into the ambient darkness of the room, leaving them there, holding their useless plastic cards with 200 pairs of eyes staring at them, staring at their failure. I pictured them, sitting in the dark at that table, the party moving on around them. They were finally, truly, on their own. My phone on the workbench was silent. The battery had died. I left it there, a dark, useless brick, and went back to my dough. The silence in the bakery was the sound of my life finally becoming my own again. I left my dead cell phone on the workbench, a dark, useless brick. I washed my hands, the flour turning to paste and rinsing away, and I drove home through the quiet streets. My house was silent. It was almost 10 p.m. I made a cup of chamomile tea, the steam curling up in the stillness of my kitchen, and I sat in my old armchair. I felt empty, but a good empty, like a pantry you've just scrubbed clean. Then, the landline on the wall rang. It was so loud in the quiet house it made me jump. It's a sound I almost never hear. It's the phone for emergencies, the one for family. It rang again, a shrill, demanding sound. I walked over and picked up the receiver. Hello? Mom, what did you do? It was Leo. He wasn't just yelling, he was screaming. I could hear the echo of a large marble room around him, the hotel lobby. And under his voice I could hear another sound. Chloe, sobbing, a high-pitched, gulping animal noise. What did you do to us? He shouted. You humiliated us. Our cards were declined. All of them, in front of everyone. The Millers, the Hendersons. Everyone saw. What is wrong with you? I held the receiver an inch from my ear. I looked at a small, framed photo on my wall. Leo, age 8, beaming, holding up a lumpy loaf of bread he'd helped me bake. I felt a pang. Not of guilt, of pity. Leo, I said. My voice was calm. It sounded strange, even to me. Don't Leo me, you have to fix this. Call the bank. Tell them it was a mistake. They think we're frauds. Chloe is a mess. This could ruin us. We're still in the lobby, they won't even validate our parking. There's no mistake, Leo, I said, my voice as level as a countertop. What? What do you mean? Is it a fraud alert? You have to clear it. Just do it. They weren't your cards, Leo. A second of silence, just Chloe's panicked sobs in the background. What are you talking about? It's the company Amex. It's our card. Exactly, I said. They were company cards. And as of 5 p.m. yesterday, when I signed the new payroll documents with my lawyer, you and Chloe are no longer employees of Whitlock Breads. The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. I don't think he was even breathing. The sobbing stopped. What? He finally whispered. You're fired, Leo. Both of you. The cards were deactivated because you are no longer affiliated with my business. You'll get your final paychecks, minus the adjustments my forensic accountant found. Fired. Fired. You can't fire me. I'm your son. You're an employee who was systematically stealing from my company, I said, and the coldness in my own voice surprised me. The fact that you're my son is what makes this a tragedy, but the business decision, that was simple. You, he was sputtering, the rage collapsing into pure cold shock. You, bitch, you old. You should probably call an Uber home, Leo. That Lexus is a company car too. I'll be sending someone from the leasing agency to pick it up in the morning. Don't forget to clean out the glove compartment. I hung up the phone. I stood in my quiet kitchen. My hands were shaking. Just slightly. But my heart was steady. It was done. The first cut was the deepest, and it was clean. I slept that night. For the first time in maybe 10 years, I slept a deep, dreamless, 8-hour sleep. When I woke up, the sun was streaming in. I didn't feel guilt. I didn't feel sadness. I felt our light. The decision was made. The poison was lanced. I was at the bakery by 5 a.m., just like always. The morning rush is a symphony of controlled chaos, and I'm the conductor. The ovens were roaring, blasting waves of heat. Miguel, my foreman, was shouting orders for the delivery trucks. We need 400 ciabatta for the Hilton, 200 baguettes for the bistro. The air was thick with steam from the dish pit and the sweet, nutty smell of baking bread and fresh ground coffee. I was in my element. Apron on, hair tied back, hands deep in a 50-pound batch of brioche dough. This was my church. This was my home. At 7:15 a.m., the glass door to the front cafe jingled. But it wasn't the happy jingle of a customer. It was an angry, violent slam. I heard Sarah, my front-of-house manager, say, Ma'am, you can't go back there. It's a restricted area. Employees only." The double doors to the bakery floor flew open, slamming against the steel prep tables with a crash that silenced the entire room. The mixers wound down. The shouting stopped. There they were. They looked awful, truly awful. Chloe was still in her gala dress from the night before, wrinkled and stained, with her hair a rat's nest and black mascara tracks down her pale cheeks. Leo was just a ghost. He was wearing the same tux, no tie, his face ashen and hollow. They looked like survivors of a shipwreck, which, in a way, they were. "You!" Chloe shrieked. Her voice was a ragged, wet sound, like torn silk. She stormed past the cooling racks, past the bins of flour, and headed straight for me. Miguel, who is not a small man, put a hand on her arm. "Ma'am," she shoved him. "Don't you touch me! Get your filthy hands off me!" She got right in my face. I could smell the stale champagne on her breath. I was still holding a 10-pound mass of sticky brioche dough. "You can't do this to us!" she screamed. Every baker, every packer, every driver just stood and stared. This was their bonus she was screaming about, their profit sharing. "This is our life, you old bitch! You can't just take it away!" I didn't flinch. I just looked at her, really looked at her. The designer dress, the puffed-up face, the bottomless screaming pit of her entitlement. I felt nothing. No, that's not true. I felt a deep, profound pity. "This is my bakery, Chloe," I said. My voice was quiet, and it cut right through her shriek. "You were an employee, and you are trespassing. Trespassing." She laughed, a hysterical choking sound. "I am your family. You're supposed to help us." "My family doesn't steal from me," I said, her face contorted. She actually raised her hand, her fingers curled into a claw, and for a second I thought she was going to strike me. I didn't even blink. I just looked past her, at Miguel. "Miguel," I said, my voice as calm as if I were asking for more yeast. "Security to the front, please." Miguel didn't need a phone. He just nodded to the two biggest guys on the loading dock, Luis and Ben, who had already started moving. They are men who move 100-pound flour sacks for a living. "You can't touch me!" Chloe screamed, as Luis took her firmly by the upper arm. She started to fight, to twist, but it was like a hummingbird fighting a bear. "Mom," Leo finally spoke, his voice cracking. "Mom, please don't do this. This isn't over." Chloe shrieked as they were moved, step by step, back toward the double doors. I'll sue you. I'll tell everyone what you did." "This is not over, Mom," Leo yelled, as Ben guided him by the shoulder. "This is not over." They were physically escorted back through the doors, through the now silent cafe, past a dozen customers holding lattes and staring with wide-open eyes, and right out onto the sidewalk. The glass door clicked shut behind them. The bakery was silent for a full 10 seconds. You could hear the tick-tick-tick of the convection oven timers. I slapped the mass of dough down on the steel table with a heavy thwack. "All right," I said, my voice ringing in the quiet. "We're behind. Let's get these orders out." I started kneading the dough, my hands strong and sure. The rhythm was back. The new boundary was drawn, and it was made of steel. That steel boundary held. After they were gone, and the bakery was back to its rhythm, I went to my office. The adrenaline from the confrontation had faded, leaving behind a deep, quiet calm. I picked up the phone. I didn't yell, I didn't celebrate. I made 2 phone calls. The first was to the Lexus leasing company. My voice was as steady as my hands. Hello, this is Martha Whitlock, proprietor of Whitlock Artisan Breads. I'm calling about the RX 350 lease to my company license plate. I gave her the number. Yes, we're terminating the lease, effective immediately, for breach of company policy. It's currently in the possession of 2 former employees. I gave her the address of their luxury condo. The keys are with them. Yes, you'll need to retrieve it. I'll pay any and all penalties for the early termination. Thank you. I hung up. I pictured that pearl-white SUV, the one that wasn't on-brand enough for them, being towed from their residence-only parking spot. A small, necessary amputation. The second call was to the management board of their downtown condo building. My name was on that lease. My credit, my guarantee. Hello, this is Martha Whitlock calling about Unit 30B. I am the co-signer and financial guarantor on that lease. That's correct. I am formally notifying you that as of this moment, I am removing my name and my guarantee from the agreement. I will not be renewing. The man on the other end was quiet for a moment. Ma'am, you understand that without your guarantee, the tenants, Mr. and Mrs. Vance, will have to re-qualify on their own income. I understand that completely, I said. Send me the paperwork. I'll pay any fees associated with the change. I hung up. I knew, with the certainty of a baker checking a thermometer, that Leo and Chloe had no verifiable income. They had no savings. Their credit was a house of cards built on my bank account. Without me, they couldn't pass a credit check for a storage locker, let alone a $4,000 a month high-rise. The 30-day clock on their eviction had just started. I didn't hear from them. The silence was heavy, but the bakery was full of life. The next week, I was in my office going over invoices when Sarah, my front-of-house manager, came in. She was holding her phone and she looked embarrassed. Martha, I'm not trying to gossip, but you should probably see this. She handed me the phone. It was Chloe's Instagram. Her page was usually a glittering, curated shrine to herself, all rooftop cocktails, new outfits, and 5-star meals, tagged number blessed and number work life. But now, it was a war zone. The beautiful photo from the gala, the one they must have posted just before the auction, was still there. But the comments, oh, the comments. I was at the Hilton. You stiffed the auction. So embarrassing. What happened, Chloe? I thought you were rich. Called it. Always knew she was a fake. FRD. Number gala fail, number declined. My stomach turned. This wasn't joy. This was grubby. This was the rotten fruit of the life they'd chosen. Sarah scrolled down. Chloe, in a panic, had tried to do damage control. She'd posted a tearful video, her face puffy. Hey guys, I know there are some vicious rumors. It was a simple bank error. My mother-in-law is having some issues. We are just asking for privacy. It had backfired. The comments were even worse. Blaming your family? Classy. Then Sarah clicked on another profile. The lifestyle blogger they'd been schmoozing with at my 25th anniversary party. The woman had posted a crisp, professional statement to her story. In light of recent events, we will be pausing our collaboration with Chloe Vance. We cannot partner with individuals who do not align with our core values of transparency and integrity. I handed the phone back to Sarah. Integrity, I said quietly. Imagine that. I wasn't happy. I was just numb. This was the world they built. A world as fragile as spun sugar. All image, no substance. One poke, and it dissolved. A few weeks passed. I was balancing the books, and for the first time in years, the numbers added up. The 30% drain was gone. I gave Miguel and the whole team a mid-year bonus. Their faces, that was joy. Then, I got a final call from the condo manager. Mrs. Whitlock? Just confirming that the Vances are moving out? The sheriff posted the 24-hour notice yesterday. They're not happy. I felt a sudden, sharp pang. Not of guilt, of responsibility. My responsibility. I had enabled this. I had built this fake house with them. It was time for me to pay my share of the demolition. I drove downtown. Not to the condo. I wouldn't let them see me. I went to the management office, and I paid the final month's rent. I paid the fees for the broken lease. I paid for the carpets to be cleaned. I was settling my last account. This was my cost of freedom. As I walked back to my car, I saw it. A block away, In the loading zone of their building was a beat-up U-Haul truck. The ramp was down. Leo, looking thin, his shoulders slumped in his expensive t-shirt, was trying to pivot a ridiculously large flat-screen TV through the doorway. Chloe was standing on the curb, screaming into her phone at, who knows? She was holding a designer handbag in one hand and a box of shoes in the other. They looked small. Just two angry lost people, surrounded by shiny junk they had never truly owned. They didn't see me. I just got into my old Subaru, the one that wasn't on brand, and I drove back to the bakery. Back to my life. Back to something real. And real life wasn't just the bakery. Real life was my daughter, Sarah, and my granddaughter, Emily. She's the other half of my heart. The half that never asked for anything but my time. She's a first-grade teacher, married to a good man who works as an electrician. They built a life, a real, solid, earned life, in a small house with a slightly patchy lawn and a whole lot of love. They clip coupons, they save for their vacations. They are, in a word, happy. Leo was the black hole I'd been pouring my life into. Sarah was the garden I'd been tending. That Thursday, I was at Emily's elementary school for the fall PTA meeting. The gymnasium smelled exactly as it should, like floor wax, stale coffee, and the faint, dusty scent of dodgeballs. I sat on a hard wooden bleacher, my bad knee complaining, listening to an earnest discussion about funding for new library books. I was just a mom, a grandma. I'd brought 24 of my chocolate chip cookies for the bake sale table. After the meeting, I was standing by that very table, talking to Sarah. Emily, who is all pigtails and missing front teeth, was tugging on my sleeve, begging me to buy her one of Mrs. Henderson's Rice Krispie treats. I was laughing, digging in my purse for $1, when a voice cut through the happy chatter. Well, Martha, I'm surprised to see you here. I looked up. It was Barbara, my late husband's sister, Leo's aunt. Barb is a woman who thrives on two things, gossip and the appearance of concern. She was dressed perfectly, her hair sprayed into a helmet, her face a mask of practiced, worried sympathy. Barb, I said, my smile tightening. It's good to see you. Is it? She said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. She leaned in, grabbing my arm just above the elbow. Martha, we need to talk. Sarah, God bless her, saw the look on my face. Aunt Barb, we were just about to. It's all right, honey, I said, putting a hand on Sarah's arm. I gave Emily the $1. Go get your treat. I'll be right there. Sarah gave me one last worried look before guiding Emily away. The second they were out of earshot, Barb's face hardened. The fake sympathy evaporated, replaced by cold, hard judgment. This has gone too far, Martha, she hissed. I'm hearing things, awful things. What things are those, Barb? I asked, not moving. That you fired your own son, that you threw him and that sweet wife of his out on the street, that you repossessed his car, his own mother. Her voice was rising, and a few of the other parents at the bake sale table started to pretend they weren't listening. The car and the apartment were company property, I said, my voice low and flat. They were fired for cause. For cause, she scoffed, her voice dripping with disbelief. Martha, he is your family. You don't treat family like employees. My God, how can you be so cruel? That word again. Cruel. I looked at her. I looked at her perfectly manicured nails digging into my arm. I looked at the table between us, piled high with brownies and cupcakes that parents had stayed up late to make, all to raise a few $100s for their kids. This was real. This was community. This was honest work. And then I thought of the $7,000 invoice for a client gift that was actually a designer dress. I thought of the $4,000 team-building spa weekend. I thought of my son laughing at me for handling the flour as he systematically bled my company dry. My whole life I'd been terrified of that word. Cruel. Don't be cruel, Martha. Don't be selfish, Martha. Don't be cold, Martha. It was a cage I'd lived in for 35 years. And in that moment, standing in a noisy, bright gymnasium, it just fell apart. I gently, but firmly, removed her hand from my arm. I looked her right in the eye. My voice wasn't angry. It wasn't defensive. It was just true. I enabled him for 35 years, Barb. She blinked, taken aback by my stillness. I paid for his mistakes. I financed his lies. I co-signed for a life he never earned. I let him and his wife treat me like a bank account and my business like their personal piggy bank. I sat by and watched him become a person I don't even recognize. I leaned in, just a fraction. I let that happen. That was cruel. That was the cruelest thing I've ever done. Now, for the first time, I'm finally being his mother. I'm letting him face the consequences of his own actions. It's the first honest thing I've done for him in a decade. She just stared at me, her mouth slightly open, a fish drowning in air. She was prepared for tears, for excuses, for a fight. She was not prepared for the truth. "Now if you'll excuse me," I said. "I promised my granddaughter a Rice Krispie treat." I turned my back on her. I didn't wait for her to answer. I walked away from her, and from the gaslighting, and from the judgment, and I went to find my daughter and my granddaughter. I left her standing alone by the bake sale. Walking away was easy. It felt like breathing for the first time. I bought Emily that Rice Krispie treat, and we went home. A month passed. The bakery was thriving. With the 30% drain plugged, I was able to give everyone a raise. I started a 401 key matching program for my long-term employees, something I'd wanted to do for a decade but never had the room in the budget. I was sleeping. I was reading books again. My life was quiet. Then, one rainy Tuesday evening, my doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. I put down my book, walked to the door, and looked through the peephole. It was Leo. He was alone. He wasn't wearing the slick blazer or the designer jeans. He was in an old, wrinkled t-shirt and a faded baseball cap. He looked thin, tired. He looked 35. Not like a kid playing dress-up. I unlocked the deadbolt and opened the door. We just stood there for a moment. He was holding his cap in his hands, twisting the brim. "Mom," he said. His voice was quiet. Can I talk to you? Not about. Just, can I talk to you?" I didn't invite him in. I just stood in the doorway. "Okay, Leo. Talk." He looked down at his shoes, then back up at me. His eyes were red. "Mom, I get it. We messed up. We messed up bad." He took a shaky breath. "What?" Chloe said. "At the party. And what we did. What I did. Stealing. It was stealing. I'm sorry." It was a good speech. He'd probably practiced it, but the words felt hollow, like a loaf baked with no yeast. They looked right, but there was no life in them. "I'm sorry," he said again, a little more desperately. We're staying at Chloe's mom's place. It's not good. Mom, please, can I just come back?" "Come back where, Leo?" "To the bakery." He rushed the words out like he was afraid I'd cut him off. "I mean it. I'll start at the bottom. For real. I'll sweep the floors. I'll drive the delivery truck. Anything. I need my life back." He looked up at me, his eyes full of what he probably thought was sincerity. He was playing the prodigal son. He was ready for the fatted calf. He was waiting for me to cry and hug him and say, "Of course, my boy. All is forgiven. Come home." I looked at him. My son, the man I had enabled into this corner. "I'll drive the delivery truck." He said it like it was a penance, like it was the lowest, most humiliating job he could imagine. He had no idea that my drivers, the men and women who get up at 3 a.m., make more than he ever honestly earned. He had no idea what real work felt like. "You want to drive a truck?" I said. It wasn't a question. "Yes, anything," he said, nodding eagerly. "Okay," I said. I turned and walked to the small desk in my hallway, the one where I keep stamps and pay my bills. I opened the drawer. I pulled out a trifold pamphlet. I walked back to the door. I held it out to him. He looked at it, confused. What's this?" He took it. The cover was a picture of a smiling man in a blue polo shirt standing in front of a semi-truck. "Tidewater Community College," he read aloud. "Commercial Driving License Program." "It's the CDL program," I said, my voice gentle. 6 weeks. They have night classes. My company is hiring drivers. We're expanding our routes. We require a valid CDL and a clean driving record for the last 10 years. His face fell. It wasn't a dramatic, movie star collapse. It was a small, subtle, but total deflation. The light in his eyes just went out. He was staring at the pamphlet as if I'd handed him a spider. He wanted a handout. He wanted a shortcut. He wanted me to wave my magic wand and give him a job, to restore his access to the money, to let him back inside the warm, safe walls of my life. I had just handed him an application. I had handed him a path. A real one. A hard one. One he would have to walk himself. It's school, he stammered. It's work, Leo, I said. That's what you said you wanted. You want to drive a truck? That's how you do it. You earn it. You apply like everyone else. Once you're certified, you can submit your application. Human Resources handles all the hiring. He looked up from the pamphlet, and the mask was gone. The sorry sun was gone. All I saw was the cold, bottomless resentment that had been there all along. He'd been caught. This was his last desperate manipulation, and it had failed. I can't believe this, he whispered. I'm your son. I'm apologizing. And you're handing me a pamphlet for truck driving school. I'm your mother, I said, and the finality of it settled in my own bones. I'm the one who should have done this 20 years ago. I'm done enabling you, Leo. But I will not stop empowering you. This is the path. If you want it, you know where to find it. He stared at me for another long, cold moment. Then he crumpled the pamphlet in his fist. He threw it on my doormat. Forget it, he spat. He turned and walked away, down the steps, and into the rain. I looked down at the crumpled ball of paper. Then, I closed the door, and I locked it. I looked down at the crumpled ball of paper on my doormat. Then very calmly, I picked it up, smoothed it out, and placed it on the small table in my entryway. The path was still there, right by the front door. The choice was still his. Then I closed the door, and I locked the deadbolt. The click of the tumbler sliding into place was the most satisfying sound I'd ever heard. It wasn't the sound of locking my son out. It was the sound of locking myself in. Safe. Finally. That was 6 months ago. It's Saturday morning, and the bakery is humming. The sunlight streams in, catching the flour in the air so it looks like glitter. The whole place smells like caramelized sugar and coffee. I'm not in my office anymore. Not really. I hired a proper general manager to run the numbers. I'm on the floor. My hands, my strong, 5-year-old hands, are deep in a 40-pound batch of sourdough. Next to me is a young woman named Rosa. She's our new apprentice, a graduate from the local culinary program, and her eyes are bright and focused. See, I tell her, folding the sticky live dough over on itself with a practiced flip of my wrist. You can't just beat it into submission, you have to teach it. You're stretching the gluten, building a structure. You're teaching it how to hold its shape when the heat comes. She nods, her hands copying my motion, her brow furrowed in concentration. Teach it. I like that. It's like, Esther here, I say, patting the bubbling tub of sourdough starter that is the mother of every loaf in this room. She's been with me 30 years. She doesn't need to be forced. She just needs to be fed. She needs respect. You give her that and she'll give you everything. Rosa smiles, and for the first time, her fold looks just right. I look up, through the glass wall of the bakery, at the cafe. It's packed. My daughter, Sarah, and my granddaughter, Emily, are at our usual corner table. Emily sees me and waves, her face covered in chocolate croissant flakes. I wave back. Miguel shouts from the ovens, Martha, the ciabatta is perfect. I look back at my apprentice, at the bustling, happy, profitable business I built, at the family that is truly mine, and I feel a warmth that has nothing to do with the ovens. For 35 years, I thought my job as a mother was to give my son a perfect life, to protect him from every fall, to hand him a world he didn't have to build. I was wrong. I finally realized my real job was to teach him how to build his own. He refused the lesson. He never came back. But here, surrounded by the legacy I did build, I've learned you can't force someone to rise. You can only be a living example of how to do it. My name is Martha, and this is what freedom tastes like. So let me ask you, if life handed you a brand new, unwritten page, would you have the courage to turn to it? If this story resonated with you, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. What would you have done? Would you have given him the job? I'm always curious to know what you think. Oh, and if you want to hear more stories about finding strength in the hardest of times, don't forget to like and subscribe for more. Big hugs and see you next time.